Hello, everybody. Welcome to Radio Labyrinth Presents. My name is Tim Andrews. There's Jeff Leboff and Dustin Lollar.
Howdy.
Hey, and joining us this week is Dustin's brother. We're going to talk about what it was like to grow up with Dustin at home. No, we're not. We're going to talk to Browan about what he does for a living, which is pretty cool. He is a lead guitarist for a band called StPaulAndTheBrokenBones, and they have a brand new album coming out. It is called TheAlienCoast on ATO Records, and it'll be out January 28th, 2022. Now, will this be streaming only, or is it going to be like LP first, or what? How do you do that?
It'll be like the full thing, LP, CD, 8-track, tape, whatever else they print these days.
Yeah.
And
Now,
did you do the cover art?
No, I didn't. Okay, so yes and no. I did I did like single images for every track on the record, but I didn't do the final cover art that's going to appear in record stores.
people who aren't necessarily familiar with the band, tell us about the band and kind of a little bit about what kind of music it is and the kind of genre that it is.
We met in Birmingham back in 2011, and we got the thing going pretty quickly after I learned how Paul could sing. Like the first time I heard him sing, I was like, I want to be in that band.
Mm-hmm.
And because I thought he was a black girl first time I heard him sing. I'm serious. Like
His voice is incredible. When I first heard him, and then I heard it before I saw his face. I turned around and looked at the TV, and I was like, "That guy is singing."
Yeah, I did the same thing, man. Like for real, I met him. I met him in the studio. So I was friends with Jesse, the bass player, and we had toured together in other bands. And I moved to Birmingham from Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and was trying to get something started here. And I called him to play bass in my band. And he was like, "Oh, by the way, you might be into what I'm doing with this guy named Paul." And I said I would come over and play on it. I got to the studio and they had all the vocals muted. And so I played on it. I liked the music and everything, but I didn't hear any of the vocals. And I met Paul that day. And then I was like, "Yeah, man, send me the tracks and I'd love to hear them after it's all mixed or whatever." And he sent me the tracks later on. And I was like, like, who is this girl singing? This girl's amazing, you know? And he was like, "No, that's Paul. That's that guy that you met in the studio." And I was like, "That's that guy that I met in the studio, like singing that." You know, the two things just don't really go together. But anyway, we started off in 2011. We came along right after the Alabama Shakes sort of broke, and so we were sort of in that vein, modern throwback kind of thing. We got lumped into that really early on, and then we've released. This is album number 4 that's coming out.
When you say you're more of a genre unto yourselves than necessarily being, forced into some subcategory of music.
I mean, everybody likes to think that, I guess, but I mean, we're really working towards that. Yeah. We did start off being a pretty typical R&B band. Because you can't have an R&B. I'd always wanted to have an R&B band. Being from Muscle Shoals, I was always into soul music and stuff like that. But the number one problem you have is that you have to build one of those bands around vocalist.
Right.
And it's just not typical to come across somebody like Paul, who's just sort of this like unicorn of different talents, he's a great singer who's into professional wrestling. And he's also a very eclectic guy, and he is a great lyricist. So it was just, I don't know, it just sort of worked out.
When I first ever heard them, for a while I worked at this kind of hipsterish barbershop in Cabbagetown. Are you familiar with Cabbagetown in Atlanta?
No, I never heard that.
It's this little neighborhood kind of down by the old Fourth Ward, tucked in by Oakland Cemetery, and there was a salon down there, and that our friends Sean and Lisa were affiliated with. So I was unemployed. I had just quit working at a pizza shop because you're in a radio professional, you get fired quite a bit. And at that point, I was tired of washing dishes at a pizza place. And anyway, long story short, I ended up working at this salon, which is really a cool place. They always had really good music playing. It was all these sessions that were live, and I heard the music, like I said, and I didn't know what Paul looked like, and then eventually I saw him. But it gave me kind of a Commitments vibe, and I was like, damn, this is really, really good. So I started listening to the music, but that's how I got exposed to it. And everybody that worked there seemed to enjoy the music, and the customers liked it too.
I'm glad that I met him for a lot of reasons, but he's just a good friend. And even if he couldn't sing, I'd love to have him. I'm glad to have him in my life because he's just a good dude, And
not to take away, the music's amazing. You guys are great musicians, and it's all tight. It's really, really cool.
Thank you. I pretty much always hide behind the keyboardist and the horns. So,
You do? Why is that?
It's easier, and I still get paid the same.
Like they used to hide Carney Wilson in the Wilson Phillips videos. They'd like put her behind a rock, and her head would come out.
I'm the Linda McCartney of the band. They just bury me, and we're good.
I really want to hear Dustin interview you.
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. Me three, for that matter.
Dustin was in the band before you were, so.
Oh yeah.
Is that part of the reason that you decided to?
Oh yeah, like Dustin's pretty much the whole reason why I took the path. Like I always talk. People always ask me about upbringing in Clinton, and I never really get a chance to talk about like the Fodge years where it was like I was 10 years old and going through puberty. Nobody ever wants to touch on that, and that was like the real formative years because Dustin went through like a real Cure phase, and like Sex Pistols and like all those like typical like, and I just thought it was the coolest stuff ever. And there was a time in Clinton, you remember when we shared a bedroom?
Yeah.
Dustin. Yeah. And you were like playing The Cure all night long and the Replacements, and like I was trying to sleep and stuff, and it would just be like Cure blaring out of the radio and stuff. So it was really, really important for my upbringing.
You'd wake up and Dustin would have put black eye makeup on you while you were sleeping.
Your hair.
Yeah. No, you look good. No, you can. No, but like it's like going beyond that, like it was always really cool for me to see Dustin, because Dustin was doing really cool shit. Like he was doing like what I thought was real stuff with music. He was doing record label stuff. Like they had Sex Sells Records, which I always thought was super cool. Mm-hmm. And the bands, the Clandestines and King Reno. And were there any more, Dustin?
No, it was just those two. But I mean, at the time that I was leaving the house and moving out, I was basically moving out so that I could tour more and not have to deal with mom saying, "Hey, you're 17 years old and you don't need to be, touring with this rock band of guys that are 5 years older than you." And so I think it was when we finally left Griffin to head to New York. We recorded with Mark Kramer in Noise, New Jersey studios. In like 6 months before, he had recorded Urge Overkill, The Girl You'll Be a Woman Soon from Pulp Fiction. He had just recorded that in that studio. And so we were like, this is the first time we were having a big time producer do an album. And so I was like, I'm leaving the house. And it was like all of a sudden, one thing leads to another. And all of a sudden I'm separated from, the family that I grew up with, and you, and that room became yours instead of just me and you sharing it. And it was funny because I remember showing you how to play stuff on the guitar You know, when you asked, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I showed it to you, and like the next thing I know, 6 months later, you're like way better than I am.
Because I didn't have anything to do. I had nothing to do. Like let me tell you something. Like when I moved from from Griffin with Mom and Bill to my stepfather Bill to Florence, I was like, all of a sudden I had my parents and I had a guitar and things to draw on, paint and stuff. And so I had nothing to do. So I had all of the time in the world. And of course I spent it all on music and art and none on school at all. I should have probably paid a little more attention to it, but
what, school? You're saying you should have paid more attention to school?
I mean, you know, now that I'm like, I'm a dad, I gotta say stuff like that, you know. But dude, but for real, like it was a huge thing for me to like have a CD of my brother's band with songs that were sung by my brother and written by my brother and played by my brother. Like I remember just like my mind was blown. Like I could sit there and listen to like these songs, and they were great songs. And it was very formative for me.
How come we haven't heard any of your songs, Dustin?
I don't know. Every time I bring up being in a band, it somehow always leads back around to Browan, so it just never comes across. The first time I was on the show, it was like, yeah, I was in a band. Oh, your brother's in a band too, isn't he? And that was it. It was just
like
it was
right
gone.
by.
Right
Yeah.
by. But no, it's, you know, you moved from, you know, Griffin, and then you moved to to Florence, Muscle Shoals.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're in this, you know, world of musicians that we, as, you know, growing up had always heard of, you know, listened to, dreamed of. And all of a sudden you're living in a town full of them.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, no, for me, like I thought you had to be, I would go to a bar and see a bar band play. And the bar band was made up of 50 or 60-year-old musicians who literally played on the tracks that they were covering.
Wow.
Originally. So you'd have like David Hood on bass. You'd have like all of these, Kelvin Holly on guitar. And all of these guys are famous in their own right. And I just thought you had to be that good to play in a bar. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I was like, I'm never going to be as good as I need to be to get a bar gig, you know? And then it wasn't until later on when I joined up with Jason Isbell that I got out of Florence like really well, like way out of the South and travel a bunch. And then I realized how special what we had was, you know.
How'd you get hooked up with Jason Isbell?
He was, we went to opposing high schools. He was a guitar player dork at his high school, and I was a guitar player dork at my high school. And so I always like heard tell of Jason. Like people would be like whispering about what they played at their talent show. And I'd be like, I got to one up that, you know, we're going to play another brick in the wall at our talent show and stuff like that. So we knew each other from high school, and skip ahead. He was always super good. Like Jason always had a freakish talent from early on. Like I think when he picked up the guitar, he could just play. He was just one of those guys. And so later on, I ran into him at Fame when I was milling around there trying to get gigs and stuff. And then he joined the Truckers, left for 7 years and came back a rock star. And he started coming. He had some time off. I guess he had about a year off to do his first solo record. And he started coming and sitting in with my band a good bit. We were hanging out one night. It was super late, and he asked me if I wanted to play guitar with him on the tour, and I did. And then at the end of that tour, I think he and the truckers split ways. So he needed an immediate band and he was just sort of like, y'all are the 400 unit and we're going to go on the road and we're never coming off again. So I think we ended up staying on the road for about 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
You still tight with him?
I mean, we're friendly and, you know, and stuff. He is like a family member of mine, and all those guys in that band are like family. You can't go through something like that and not have some sort of like weird bond, even on down the road. And, you know, I'd be lying if I said I talked to him a lot at all, but every time he's around, if he's at a festival or something, I'll go up and say hey and catch up. And
That's cool.
Last time I saw him was after he got cast in that Scorsese Killers of the Flower Moon movie.
Yeah, it comes out this year.
Yeah. I got to talk to him about it a little bit, and
What's that about? Is that a biopic or anything?
It's a historical, sort of like the Osage Indians. Dustin, you read it, right?
Yeah, it's the one where the FBI it started the FBI, that investigation where they were taking over all the Indian land in California. Yeah, and going for Scorsese. I mean, he likes those.
Oh, it's perfect.
Specific biopics.
Basically, they gave the Indians the shittiest, rockiest like land that you couldn't grow anything on, and it ended up being on top of an ocean of oil. And so they were the richest people in the United States, and this is all true. And then basically, Indians started dying, and all their money were going to white people as they were dying. And so, yeah. Anyway, it's going to be a great film. The book was incredible, but he was talking about hanging out with Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese and stuff, and he's obviously doing okay.
Yeah, I guess so.
He Sturgill's in it too.
Oh, that's right, Sturgill Simpson. That's right.
What was it like opening for the Rolling Stones 3 times?
It wasn't cool at all.
No, it sucked. When did you open for him on this last tour?
We opened for him in it must have been 2015 on the Zip Code tour.
So when you open up for the Stones, do you interact with them while you're there?
So we did have an opportunity to talk to him and meet him and stuff. And so there's 2 stories about that are crazy. So at the Atlanta show, this is before we met him or anything, and you know we were super nervous.
No doubt.
Yeah, and I was, you know, I don't know how many people that the Georgia Tech Bobby Dodd Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how many people that holds. It wasn't a huge. It was an intimate stadium. It was like a 30,000 seater or whatever, but
like half the size of a regular stadium as far as capacity.
Yeah, you know, and so we were, you know, but we don't normally play to 30,000 people, and so I was kind of nervous, kind of plugging through the songs and doing the show, and then I looked over and I saw like somebody smoking on the side of the stage, and I looked closer, and it was Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood just like standing there watching me play guitar.
Wow.
And I immediately almost threw up, and I've never ever done that in my life. I've never done that. Like I've always kind of been able to keep my cool a little bit, but like that really threw me for a loop. And so after that, I was like, okay, I'm just going to look at the people, like look out, because I can't look at the 5 guys on the side of the stage. And then we couldn't meet him the first night because of weather. Like all of the pre-show stuff was all screwed up. So the timing was off. But the second show we played was the Buffalo Bill Stadium in Buffalo, New York.
Ralph Wilson.
Yes. And so we got to meet him that night, and we went through all the layers of security. It's like presidential security. You had guys on like walkie-talkies all around, like freaking out. You know, they call them the principals.
Mm-hmm.
they're like, the principals are coming. You know, the principals are going to be there in 5 minutes. And we were like, what the hell is happening? You know, we we're just like, you know, herded into this little room where they're like, okay, the Stones will be here in a minute. Just don't go anywhere. Don't look at anything. Don't do anything. And we just stood there, and a door opens and the Rolling Stones walked in, and they were just super cool and really small, really tiny little guys, like little dudes, like walking in. And I remember Charlie Watt was just the coolest dude, man. Like he was asking so many questions about our music, and
I would have thrown up.
He's very personable, you know, like, I don't know, man. But too, the first time I was so blown away by like actually being in the room with the Stones that I couldn't really focus on anything.
Well, you're meeting royalty, rock and roll royalty. It's not like, you know, you met Eddie Vedder, which would be cool too, but it's not like the Stones. It's Mick Jagger and Charlie Watts and Keith and Ron Wood. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive.
It was crazy, man. But we got a chance to actually spend a little time with them the third time, because we're Soldier Field in Chicago, and they came and met us again. And that time they walked in, and everybody but Mick was there, because right after his heart attack. It was the first show back from his heart attack, and so we were waiting on him, and like Keith comes in and he walks up to Paul and he goes, "Paul, when are we going to start a band?" and Paul was like, "Whenever you want to, man, you know, whatever." And we just had like probably 8 or 9 minutes of killing time before Mick got there. So we just had to wait there with like Charlie Watt and Ronnie Wood and Keith Richards, just waiting on Mick Jagger. And, you know,
they were waiting on a friend. Ooh.
Yeah. And so we were like, "So what have you guys been up to?" You know, like trying to make small talk. And they were cool. They were, you know, Charlie Watt was like, "So we've got some more shows, right?" And we were like, "No." Awkward silence, you know. "So you guys are the Rolling Stones." I don't even know what we talked about.
How do you make small talk with like God, right?
Yeah,
they're the gods of rock and roll. So how do you make small talk? You just can't, you know, you feel dumb, but you managed to pull it off. I would feel terrible. I don't like making small talk with famous people, which, I mean, not as famous as the Stones, but I met people, you know, on the old radio show, and you just feel stupid. Do you like Atlanta?
Like, and I want to like come out of whatever situation you're in, like still liking the person and their music, you know? So you're like tiptoeing around, like you don't want to piss anybody off or like make them look bad to yourself. You don't want to like ruin their image of you ruin your image of them. And so I just sort of clam up usually, and I can't even talk.
No, you guys have been on a bunch of the late night shows. Like you were like one of Letterman's final musical guests, right?
Yeah, man. And that was also an awkward thing too, because we got there and Letterman's like he's pretty standoffish, and we didn't know how it was going to go. And you go out there and you like set up all your crap, and it's freezing in the studio, and so you're not even sure your hands are going to work or whatever. And like you're back from commercial break, and we just thought, so we were like on ready, you know, ready to go. And they're like, "Okay, Letterman's going to come back and he's going to introduce you." Well, he didn't do that. He started interviewing us, and we just went with it. And about halfway through, you can see my face. I'm freaking out. And then I relax, because I'm like, they're going to edit all this out. There's no way that any of this is going to air, you know. They aired all of it for some reason. And anyway, we played, and he was very kind to us, and he wanted us to play again. And so we played out or whatever, and that was it. Anyway, that night, our shows on the West Coast all sold out because of that performance.
That is cool.
And our album cycle got extended like 8 months because of that. And
what does that mean, the album cycle?
It's just, when you put out an album, you basically have, most album cycles are between 6 months and a year. Like you'll start off and you'll have like, your first big push, and that's when you usually sell most of your records. And then about 6-8 months after that, the sales start to dip, and it's like you start thinking about going into the studio for another record. This album cycle, because of that, wound up being like 3 years. So we toured 3 years off of that one record.
Dang, it's pretty awesome, man.
Which was great because it's a cheap way to tour,
Yeah, your publicity's done for you.
Yeah, right. But and we didn't get a chance to talk to. I mean, like we talked to him for a second after the show, and he was very nice and stuff. And I was like, well, I guess that's it. And then I was talking to some of the band guys in his band on the show afterwards, and he was like, man, he never talks to any of the bands. I was like, he
Really?
barely talked to us.
Yeah, I remember him talking to REM, and I thought that was weird. Like when REM first went on there.
Yeah.
He comes over and tries to talk to him, and they were thrown off too. They were like, what the hell?
Yeah,
is going
because
on?
all
Why'd you
day,
talk to us?
dude, seriously, all day, all you hear is don't make eye contact with him. He's kind of grumpy, like he's not going to say anything to you. That's all you hear all day long. So you've built up to this point where like, this guy hates me. And we're just going to get in here and like do our thing and get out and, say we did it.
There's an episode of the Larry Sanders Show. Did you ever watch that show?
Yeah.
Where Elvis Costello is coming on, and they say, don't talk to him, don't look at him, don't ask him for autographs. And then it turns out that Elvis Costello is pissed because nobody's talking to him. And he's like, you guys are a bunch of dicks. But yeah, that whole thing, I think that people say that, and maybe he doesn't want to be bothered, but if you did, it probably wouldn't bother him that much. You know what I mean? That's the idea when they say that kind of stuff about don't look at him, because they did that to Steve Harvey. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. You can look at me and talk to me.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to the band, it was the guitar player, and I can't remember his name, but he was really nice. But
Will Lee, is it?
Yeah, that's the guy I was talking to. And he was like, yeah, he makes, I noticed that Paul's band was super loud. And he was like, yeah, he started making his turn up back in the 80s because he didn't want to talk to people in commercial breaks.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, is there anybody that he doesn't do that with? And he was like, maybe Jim Carrey. And that's like it. He interviews presidents and stuff, and then they'll like start playing the music and he just walks away.
Man.
Yeah.
Now you guys, besides Letterman, I mean, you guys have been on, you did Conan a couple of times, and Colbert. I think you guys were the first band to play on Colbert.
Yeah, Paul was the first one of the first performers. He was in with other people on that first show, and then we're actually doing. I don't know when this is going to air.
28th or 27th.
Okay, so we're actually doing Colbert on the 28th.
Oh, okay.
We'll be on Colbert then, and we're doing CBS Saturday morning. So like we're doing all that stuff still, thank God, because we almost got canceled.
Why?
Omicron.
Oh, I thought you meant like maybe Paul said something untoward.
Oh, not different kind of canceled. Omicron canceled.
You're talking about really being canceled, not
yeah. But, yeah, we did Conan. I'm trying to think of any story. Like when we did Conan, there was also an awkward moment with Conan.
Really?
Well, no, Conan's cool as hell. And
big guitar nut too.
Well, that's what led to this weird thing. Like I we did our thing, and then he came over and shook hands with us, and it was like a show that was running short. So when they do that, they have Jimmy and the band like play out, and there's like, it shows the people talking, whatever. And he like came over and shook my hand. I was like, cool. All right. Shook Conan O'Brien's hand. We're good. And I'm just standing there waiting for it to end. He goes around and he makes the round and shakes everybody's hand. And I look over and he's standing back next to me looking at my guitar, and he's like, hey man, what kind of guitar is that? That's awesome. And I just like, I don't remember what I said. There's like a 5-minute gap in my memory where I know I was talking to Conan O'Brien, no idea what I said. It's on film. Like if you can find the video of us doing it, like you can see me like gabbing at him, and I'm probably just shitting all over the place. Like I can't imagine.
You guys have been on a lot of soundtracks for things. Now, as far as I know that you guys were on the soundtrack for like The Gambler with Mark Wahlberg. You guys have the opening of the movie, the credit opening.
Yeah.
But 50 Shades of Grey, where'd that one come from?
I think that one, Elton John knew the director and turned him on to our band. So back in, I want to say it was like 14 or 15, Roseanne Cash, we sort of befriended Roseanne Cash and started doing some shows with her here and there. We did one at Carnegie Hall with her and some other people, and we were just sort of friendly with her. And she's friends with Elton, and told him about our band, and I think you'd like this band. Gave him a CD or something, I don't know. And he freaked out, like loved it, and called Paul, like somehow got Paul's phone number, and because he's Elton John, and I guess he's just got everybody's phone number. and Paul called me one day out of the blue, and he's like, dude, I just got off the phone with Elton John, and I have no idea how he got my phone number. And he just he answered the phone. He's like, hello. And he's like, Paul, this is Elton John. I love your band, and he was like, who, this can't be Elton John. And, but it was Elton, and we ended up having a good relationship with them. And he's really excited about music and new music, and continues to be. And we ended up doing the AIDS benefit with him, his AIDS benefit, the Oscars benefit thing, which was a weird thing because when you do that, he got up and sang one of our songs with us. He got on stage and sang a song of I know, it's so cool, man. Sang one of our songs with us. And when you're doing that, it's like a regular show length. It's like an hour and a half long show. Mm-hmm. But the difference is there's like maybe 400 people, but they are all A-list famous people, like crazy. Like you look out and in the crowd, and there's like Shaka Khan and I don't know.
Well, the funny part about that night was there was a video that popped up on Instagram, or maybe it was Twitter, and I was like, it was a shaky cam, and you could tell it was somebody standing on a table, like taking, and it was Elton John and my brother on stage together, and I'm like, this is amazing. And then I looked down at the comments to see who posted the video, and it was Sharon Stone posted the video of it on the internet.
Yeah, and Caitlyn Jenner was there.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I know. I've been waiting on it.
You guys rock! My goodness, jeepers! My goodness, you want to be on my next TV show? I don't know, probably have one soon.
No, I think because she was actually really cool.
Did she like the music and comment on it?
She said something to the girlfriend of our trombone player, who was actually named Caitlin too, and she was like shrunk and walked up. She's like, "My name is Caitlin too." And
wow!
And
gold of the '76 Olympics.
And so, but she said something to her about it. But who else was it? Who was there? Who's the guy that we met, Dustin? That
Oh, Corey. Did you mean Corey Haim? Corey Feldman. Yeah.
He wanted to tour with us.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
This is in his band. Yeah. This is when he had the girl band. Yeah.
Oh my God. Super surreal. And like he walked over and he was really nice. And I was like, dude, Corey Feldman is like the nicest guy on earth. And then he was like, we should do some shows together. And I'm like, oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'll be talking about this expose I'll be doing at the end of the year.
Did you ever see that band, Tim?
Uh-huh.
You did. You saw the Good Morning America.
Yeah, I'd never seen them in person, but I watched all that stuff just out of fascination. It was pretty bad.
I mean, it was part of me that definitely wanted to go on the road with it and see it every night for a month. But
yeah, no, you didn't. Really? When do you go on tour? When do you leave? I know I have to get you because you're busy, but
we leave March 4th. Actually, we play in Atlanta at the Eastern. Have you guys been there?
I haven't.
It's a new place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we play at the Eastern on March 4th, and then after that, we're pretty much gone on tour.
So between now and then, I'm just asking, would you have time to come back on? Because maybe we can get some questions from listeners and everything too.
Yeah, man, I would love to.
I wanted to talk a little about your art before you go. All right.
Oh yeah, I do too. But I'm just saying that I know that a lot of our listeners are going to like the especially talking about Isbell and talking about a lot of the bands that play down here. Now, Jeff, we're going to talk about your artwork. I was looking at, now you did all the artwork for the Straight to Ale beers, because I'm looking at the artwork on their page, all the different beers.
I did about 6 cans in 2008 and 9.
Okay.
And then I parted ways with them. So I think they're working with a new artist now.
Did they take their name from Driving and Crying?
Yeah.
Straight to Hell? Okay.
Yeah. And that's the kind of beer that you drink like a half one and you feel like you've had like 3 shots.
Uh-huh.
It's like high gravity beer.
Yeah, I'm looking for the Pilsner. Give me the Pilsner. I can have that, and then I won't get heartburn and I won't feel full.
Yeah.
That was cool. That was cool though to go into, because they distribute it over here to Atlanta, and you'd go in a store, and I've since drank them, but we had what was the milk stout that had the cow cow you did on the front.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
Yeah, it was really neat to see your artwork on those. But I mean, your artwork's a whole other business for you. I mean, you've got this whole music thing, but at the same time, you've got this huge art thing that goes on. I mean, you've done albums covers for Isbell. You did the first 2, right? Growing up, you could always draw. You were always doodling and stuff, but did it really just kick in? Like once you were at mom's.
Yeah. When I was sequestered in my bedroom for 10 years by myself. Yes. Because I think about that a lot, and it's probably just because of becoming a dad in the past 5 years. I think about my upbringing a lot now too, and I think that time was so important to who I am now, because I literally was separated from everything I'd gotten to know up until that point. I wasn't with you guys anymore. I think Lori came with us, right? My stepfather.
Yeah, it was our stepsister. Yeah, she had moved with you guys. But yeah, me and Nikki, our sister, we had both, graduated high school and left the house. And, it was just you guys there. And then as soon as we're out of the house, like 2 weeks later, they're like, hey, we're moving.
Yeah.
And you guys were gone.
We're out. Yeah, man. I just had a lot of time. I was a dork, and I was really into art and music. That's literally all I wanted to do. Even when I got a little older, that's still all I want to do. So in that way, it was really, it took a lot of pressure off of me, because I always just sort of knew what I wanted to do. It was just sort of making it, and it didn't make mom feel any better. And you know this, Dustin, like to be like, well, I want to be a musician. Well, you got to have a backup. And it's like, fine, I want to be an artist. Like that doesn't work, you know, like, like,
yeah. But the fun, you know, and ironically, the funny part about it is you've been a success at both. And that's just, you know, I'm, as your brother, you know, that's something that makes me extremely proud, you know, that you can, you know, you've got all this going on. It seems like you got like a Midas touch. You can, anything you get involved in, you know, you succeed at it. And
just see all the stuff I screw up, man. It's like, first of all, I can't, if my car breaks, I'm not getting to where I'm going. Like I can't work on cars. Like I know nothing about cars. I don't know how to cook. I don't know anything about sports at all. Like I'm very like the Venn diagram covers art, music, and anything outside of that, I suck at. So I appreciate you saying that.
What made you inspired you to paint Werner von Braun?
Oh, well, money. They were.
Oh, okay. You were commissioned.
No, they paid me some money to do the Werner von Braun brown ale for straight.
Oh, I see. And Werner von Braun is the Nazi rocket scientist who developed the V1 and V2 rockets. And then Operation Paperclip, he was brought to the United States and got our space program started.
In Huntsville. So it's or you guys, I mean, most of your stuff is very Alabama centric, it seems like.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff with Straight to Ale especially was because they wanted to, in the early days, they were only doing things that were related to Huntsville and the space program.
Okay.
And we wanted to do, I came in with the idea of doing them like sort of like old school movie posters, where you're setting these guys and you're putting them in a setting of like action. And with the Werner von Braun portrait, I actually had to get it okayed by his family because they're very touchy about how he's portrayed.
Yeah, they don't want him to be misconstrued as a Nazi.
Well, they were like, you don't hide any swastikas on him.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, dude, I'm not going to do that. You know,
but they had to say that. That's pretty bad.
I'm sure.
No, there was like this whole thing. Yeah. You know, they had to sign off on it.
Because he was, and then he had to be. If you were German and you were there and you had any skills, you had no choice in the matter.
Yeah.
If you were German, if you were another ethnicity, well, they had other options for you. But you know, and then the United States went and got him before the Soviets could. So it's just the way it was. Your Kubrick portrait is really nice too. I might order that one. I love it.
That was another one.
Point everybody to your art website.
It is BrowanLollar Prints .bigcartel.com, and Browan, that's spelled BROAWFTRON. And nobody can ever spell it right. It's BROWANLOLLAR. And there's prints on there, and I'm actually about to overhaul the whole thing because I'm not very happy with it, but it's up there now.
This one I'm using as a background is it reminds me of Midworld, Stephen King. Midworld.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys are big Stephen King fans too, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Your hobby recently seems to be purchasing first editions of all the Stephen King hardbacks.
Yeah, makes my wife super happy. Yeah.
What's your most valuable one?
I've got a really good Firestarter, which is a hard one to find. First ed, first print, and I've got a really good Shining, and I've got a really good Pet Cemetery.
I bet Carrie's really tough to find, right?
Yeah, Carrie's a real bitch to find, and then what's the other one that's really hard to find? Oh,
Rage,
Salem's Lot.
Oh yeah,
Rage, Rage, definitely Rage. I've got the Bachman books. The old Bachman books that had Rage in it, but I don't have a copy of Rage.
The two bookstore characters in the Dark Tower saga talking about how difficult it is to get Salem's Lot is very meta, but because he's a rare book collector. Calvin Tower, isn't that his name? I forget the name.
Yeah, Calvin Tower.
Yeah. the something of the mind, the bookstore of the mind. I forget. I read it a million times and then I forget a lot of that stuff. But yeah.
What's your favorite book of the Tower series?
Wizard and Glass.
Really? You like the flashback book?
Uh-huh.
That's my favorite as well.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. I think mine is probably drawing.
Drawing's fantastic. Drawing is great. I love it. And I also like the Wastelands, but you can tell he was on cocaine when he was doing the Wastelands.
Yeah. He's like Maximum Overdrive, Stephen King.
I think Dustin's brought that up before. Just the Wastelands doesn't ever stop. It's just boom. It's just you go, and maybe they have some time with Aunt Talitha or the old people eating cake or whatever. But then once they get into Lud, it's just nonstop until they're on the train.
Yeah, and I think that was like after the Gunslinger, because I read it consecutive order. So after the Gunslinger, I was just like, whoa, I feel like I had whiplash going into the drawing of the three and Wastelands. But I think that's part of the reason why I liked it so much. It does seem to slow down a little bit when it gets to Wizard and Glass. But I mean, not in a bad way. I like Wizard and Glass too.
I like the what goes on. I mean, you have to really suspend disbelief that a 13 or 14-year-old kid is banging some hottie in a farm town, but it's a different world. But then you get to the books after that, and I do like the Wolves of the Kala, and the ones after the Song of Susanna is my least favorite is the final book. I like Song of Susanna because I like the stuff that's going on in New York and the whole stuff with Per Callahan talking about his what did he call it, hitchhiking or something, turnpiking,
yeah, and all the throwbacks. It's I like now. It's funny. I've read it I've read through it now twice fully, and the first time without reading a lot of the books, the second time with reading most of the books, and it's so cool, all the Easter eggs and stuff that he creates such a universe. It's nuts that everything is so interconnected.
Jeff got me into the Talisman, and speaking of the connectivities of those worlds, but you really pushed me for years to read it, and I finally did, and it's so good.
Yeah,
dude, I haven't read the Talisman yet.
You should. That's my favorite Stephen King of all time.
That's on the list next. There's only a handful of the classic ones I haven't done yet. I haven't done that one, and I haven't done like different seasons.
Oh, the shorts. Most of I mean, those have mostly all been turned into movies from that book. Almost every one of them.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm a huge dork for it all. I mean, I read other stuff, but it's like I'll force myself to read a non-Stephen King book, and then I'll read a Stephen King book, and then a non. So I'll force myself to break it up, just for my mental health.
Speaking of which, have you read Project Hail Mary yet?
No, and I think I'm just going to break down and get the hardback. I'm kind of a softback guy, but
I recommend the audiobook just so you can hear the way that they do the alien's voice. It's perfection. Being a music guy, you'd probably be into it too, because the alien creatures speak in music.
Yeah, and the audiobook makes it a completely different experience than reading it.
Yeah, so the alien creature that speaks in music, so it's basically Prince.
Hey, Browan, before we let you go, first of all, I'd love to have you come back, and we'll bug Dustin to get you back when you can, because this was a lot of fun. Okay. And you contain multitudes, I'm sure. Like the Dylan song that was 17 minutes long, or however long that was.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, you have a line of trading cards?
Oh my God. Yeah. We,
and what are they, and where can they be seen? That's
well, I think I actually sold out, man. Oh, really? Which is nuts. We had them on our websites. Like I did, Garbage Pail Kid inspired, like, drawings of the guys in the band. And it was a pain in the ass. but it was a lot of fun, but it was really a pain in the ass because you've got like multiple levels of things you have to achieve. You have to make it look kind of like a Garbage Pail Kid, but you also have to make it kind of a caricature. And you also have to make it funny but not offensive, and all this crap. So you had to thread the needle just right. But yeah, I mean, I did one of Paul, and it's Squally Polly, and it's like he's a baby and he's crying, and my favorite one, and it's gonna get my ass kicked if I'm not careful, because Al is somebody not to be messed with, but our keyboard player is the oldest guy in the band, and we always give him shit about being old and stuff. And I made his skeletal, and it's basically just like a skeleton covered in cobwebs at a keyboard, like a crow, and there's like a cemetery in the background. It's really funny. But yeah, they're I think they sold out, which was really cool.
What was the reason for making them?
Just to have something fun to sell at shows, and to have a little bit of fun merch associated with a new record.
It's on your website. Skeletal is the one that pops up first. So if you guys want to see that, you can go to the website. So just go to StPaulAndTheBrokenBones. Or is it .com? Because this is like the store, the merch. Oh, and the album is on here too. And a onesie.
There's a onesie?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know that. You could get
I hope this is your website, not somebody just bootlegging all of your stuff. I'm gonna get Gil a onesie.
Hey, I got a question for you, Tim.
Yes.
So you did voice work on what all now? You've done voice work on the Adult Swim, right? Squidbillies?
Only on Squidbillies. Yeah. One thing we did on Aqua Teen, but we were all screaming. So it's just our voices all merged. Our voices are all merged together. But I've done Larry Munson, his voice. I've done on Squidbillies 3 or 4.
Larry Munson.
He doesn't know anything about sports.
Yes. Oh, Larry Munson was the longtime radio voice for the Georgia Bulldogs. He was on WSB for years and years and years. He's a big college football dude, and he kind of talks like this. And every morning, I think he would talk about going to the movies with the girls. He would go to the movies with college girls, and they'd talk about the movies, and they would bring their boy dates. But he's the one that the hobnail boot and sugar falling from the sky. So he's revered in the state.
He actually, Larry Munson himself did a voice on Squidbillies, right. And then he died.
No, he didn't die. He had done the voice, and he did a voice on Squidbillies. And one day the guys who do the Squidbillies show were in the regular guy show, and I started doing the Larry Munson voice. And Dave Willis goes, "Who just did that?" It turns, and he had me follow him out when he left, and he told me that they wanted his voice back, but he was too sick to return to the studio to do it. So that's how I ended up getting it.
Yeah, I just assumed Larry Munson was a made-up name because it sounds made up as hell.
No, it's a real name.
Okay. But I just wanted to say I was a big fan of the Squidbillies and stuff, and but I'm also just a big fan of the show in general. So and not just because my brother's in it, but I really appreciate you guys letting me come on.
Dude, it's fantastic. I mean, like I said, I would go for another hour, but I can't go. But I would love to have you back, man. This was a lot of fun. St. Paul and the Broken Bones. Check them out wherever you listen to music, or go to YouTube. There's live music. There's live videos from the Sloss Factory in Alabama and all sorts of different things. There's an NPR series. And they have a brand new album. It's called TheAlienCoast. It comes out on January 28th of this year. And for the time being, you can still get some of those really cool trading cards. And I'm a trading card collector, so I will probably try to get them because I like all sorts of weird stuff like that. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming on. Please come back on in a couple of weeks if we can get it arranged per your schedule.
Yeah, let's let the album come out, and then we'll, after it's out for a little bit,
we'll shit all over it.
I actually listened to it today. It's fantastic.
Yeah, dude,
thanks, man. Thank you, guys.
It is really good.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, anytime. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and then we'll post up on our social media questions and stuff, because I'm sure that, like I said, a lot of our listeners are going to enjoy asking you some questions, because they're probably right in the wheelhouse of the music. So thank you very much. We will talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll just keep in touch with Dustin.
Yeah, I mean, don't let him big time you, because he's a big podcaster.
I know. Yeah. Wielding all his power and it's his podcaster bucks.
A podcasting power. Oh yeah. I just do it for the money. That's all I do.
Yeah. $20 a month really comes in.
Yeah.
It's all the money and the women. It just gets to be too much.
Right.
Thanks, guys.